What is going on, all you wonderful A-plusers out there? It is I, Stuart, here once again to give you guys another Kamen Rider Saber here, coming at you with episode 7. A lot of cool moments that I get to break down in this episode to you guys. Essentially some really cool story moments, but also a lot of really cool character moments that I'm really excited to get into. So guys, let's get right into this episode, and let's talk about this beginning, because it takes place immediately, like, you know, with Rintaro still in the same state of mind as he was in the previous episode. Essentially, you know, feels really guilty about not being able to avenge his master like he really thought he was ready to do, but unfortunately he wasn't. And so because of this, he decides to go spend time in the hyperbolic time chamber. I mean, that's not what it's actually called, but that's kind of what I want to call it, because from the sounds of it, it seems like it's literally just the hyperbolic time chamber from Dragon Ball Z. Essentially, you go in there, and then, like, for every year you spend there, it's like a day in the real world or something like that. They don't quite explain it in great detail, but they do say that time works differently in the time chamber than it does like outside of this, although they call it like the training chamber or something like that. But anyways, so he basically goes in there after like feeling a lot of guilt about not being able to avenge his master, and we get a weird looking kind of montage from it. I'll get back into this later on in the episode. But Touma reveals that he finally knows how to get to Avalon. He says that the big catch about it is that he does need Caliber to be there with him as well in order for it to happen. With Kento, of course, not wanting his father to kill Touma or anything like that, he agrees to go with Touma in hopes that he can, you know, at least protect him while Touma goes to get his powers back, essentially. Meanwhile, our villains of the week unleash a new monster, and this time it is Medusa. Yay, Greek mythology. I'm a huge sucker for Greek mythology personally. So yes, we get Medusa as our monster of the week, and I do find this funny. You know, it just so happens the little area that they released the Medusa monster in just happens to be the area that Ogami was walking in, so he happens to see like all this madness going on, and we get a really interesting character moment from him. Now, normally if it was any other character I would have ignored it, but I thought this was kind of cool just coming from him, given from you know, what we saw he was like in his first introduction. But essentially, after, you know, seeing there's a monster attack, rather than going about destroying the monster on his own like he usually does, we actually see him not going right into battle, but instead calling for backup, letting the other riders know, hey, there's a monster here, I might need some help defeating it. Really cool moment, just, you know, coming from him, just because it's really cool. Over the course of, it's only been a few episodes, but we've already seen this character grow like a lot from the beginning. So of course Ren does go to assist Ogami. I did not hate Ren in this episode, but that's because he really didn't have that much in terms of lines, but he did have a couple of really cool fight scenes here. Both he and Ogami do really good, but unfortunately eventually they just get outnumbered because more of the villains decide to join in on this fight. So even though they're taking down Medusa just fine on their own, once all the other villains join in, that's when it's suddenly like, oh well, I guess we're kind of screwed now. We're a little bit outnumbered here. But luck would have it, we cut back to the time chamber. Yes, I'm still going to be calling it that. And Rintaro is ready to go again. But he is not going in empty-handed. No, my friend. He is going in with a new power-up. There is an image I forgot to take here, but also happening like kind of in the midst of all this. You had Mai like kind of just going into the middle of the battlefield, essentially, kind of like she's been doing before. But what I thought was really cool is they did kind of hint at maybe a romance kind of growing between Mai and Rintaro, and I think that would actually be kind of cool if they ended up going with that, but I guess we'll have to wait and see if that even leads anywhere. Rintaro in this episode just kicks ass, so he goes back to fight Zuos again, you know, for the rematch that was kind of building up. I kind of figured we'd have a few more episodes before the rematch actually happened, but nope, we get it right off the bat, and this time Rintaro is essentially like beating him. Like it's not as one-sided as it was in the previous week, so I really enjoyed the fight here. Even though Rintaro doesn't actually get revenge, he does end up being the one who was able to take down the monster of the week, of course. So, you know, nothing like super exciting going on there. The one thing that did kind of bother me about Rintaro is I do feel like his rematch should have been waited like for a few episodes. It did feel kind of rushed to just have him go into this time chamber of like, you know, training and then like leave towards the middle of the episode and go, hey, I'm suddenly ready and I suddenly have this new power up. I just wish they waited a couple episodes before doing something like that. It just felt way too soon, especially because he literally just lost to him in the previous episode. But other than that, it was a really fun fight and a really cool brawl between all of them. So, you know, I got to give it points for that. I just hope like the actual vengeance part of you know, him avenging his master and all that, I really hope they no pun intended, Saber the moment. Who am I kidding? I totally intended the pun there. So anyways, let's move on to Touma, because he and Kento, of course, are in the other dimension looking for Avalon, but of course they can't enter until they come across Caliber, which luckily he comes in not that far behind either of them. He of course morphs, and this causes the dragons from both Touma and Caliber to essentially collide, which opens up the portal that Touma can go into. I'm not gonna lie, I was a little bit confused on how that worked, how it is that their two books, you know, they form into the dragons that have to fight each other, and that opens up the portal. Yeah, it's just there was a lot of exposition on how this whole like dimensional like gateway to Avalon works, so I've honestly just been really confused this whole time, but it's entertaining, so I'm not like complaining or anything like that. So of course we do have Kento being able to hold back Caliber just long enough for Touma to get into the portal and then get this new upgrade, and of course the upgrade is essentially Excalibur, which I feel like was kind of hinted at in the first episode. I mean, the way Touma had to get his powers in the first place was lifting a sword from stones, you know. Of course it was a sword engulfed in flames, which added a little bit of a layer to his badassery, but essentially, yeah, it does make sense that Excalibur would be essentially the new upgrade for him. So he has to face a few challenges though before he's allowed to leave with the power. While he gets the power, he does have to first face down a monster, which he honestly takes care of immediately, like after facing it. However, his real challenge comes in whether or not he's going to be worthy of carrying the sword. Kind of like a Mjolnir thing going on, I guess you could say. But guys, overall, this was a really fun episode. Like I said, I did really like the character moments, specifically from Omagi and Rintaro. I just wish they kind of waited for this arc with Rintaro, because it did feel like too much of a Deus Ex Machina of him like kind of just going in the time chamber, coming out with the power up. It felt very much like Power Rangers Megaforce, with Ghost Sage just handing power ups here and there and there. You know, that's kind of the vibe I got from this. Usually in Kamen Rider, when people get power ups, at least in the seasons that I've seen, there's even if they are a Deus Ex Machina, they always feel like an earned Deus Ex Machina, whereas here it just didn't feel quite as earned as I've seen Kamen Rider like just doing like in the past in general, like how they've done better at it in the past and all that. But anyways, with that all being said, I didn't necessarily hate the fact that Rintaro came out, you know, all powerful, and it did lead to some really cool fight scenes, so, you know, take it for what you will. Not my favorite episode, but definitely a really good episode. But guys, at the end of the day, those are just my A+ opinions. We here at A+ Opinions always want to know what you guys think, so definitely let me know in the comments below, and definitely hit that like button, subscribe to our channel, and if you are interested in knowing when we drop new content on the channel, definitely hit that notification bell and you will be notified on when new content drops. But guys, above all, just remember, keep it A+.